The city throbbed around Eleanor. Skyscrapers scraped the sky, taxis blared, but Eleanor found solace in a quiet corner of an antique shop. Dust motes danced in the sunlight that streamed through the dusty window.
She ran her fingers along a shelf filled with forgotten treasures. Her fingers brushed against something cool and smooth, a locket. It was nestled between a chipped porcelain doll and a tarnished silver hand mirror. She picked it up, intrigued. She paid for the locket, unaware that she wasn't just buying a trinket. She was purchasing a key to a past she never knew existed.
Eleanor hurried down the crowded street, her thoughts consumed by the mysterious locket. She reached her apartment building and climbed the stairs. The locket slipped from her grasp, falling open with a soft click as it hit the floor. The world dissolved into a blinding white light. Eleanor blinked, disoriented. The white light faded, replaced by a hazy golden glow. Gone were the familiar sights and sounds of her apartment building. She was no longer in her world. She was surrounded by cobblestone streets and gaslights. Elegant carriages trundled by, their wheels clattering against the uneven pavement. People in clothes she had only seen in history books bustled around her. Their voices, speaking in unfamiliar accents, washed over her. She was in another time, another place. She was in the New York City of the 1880s.
Panic welled up inside her. She needed to get back. She needed to go home. But how? The locket! I'm fine, she stammered, her cheeks flushing crimson. She quickly retrieved the locket, clutching it tightly in her palm. Thank you, for your concern. She tried to smile, but it felt shaky and uncertain.
The man introduced himself as Samuel, a writer for a local newspaper. Eleanor found herself drawn to his gentle demeanor and the twinkle of intelligence in his eyes.
He offered to walk her home, his hand brushing lightly against hers as they navigated the crowded streets.
Eleanor found herself accepting his offer, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, filled with laughter and shared interests. Eleanor found herself falling under his spell, her modern sensibilities melting away with each stolen glance, each shared laugh. As days turned into weeks, Eleanor found herself falling deeper into the rhythm of life in the 1880s. She had found a room at a boarding house, a cozy haven with floral wallpaper and the scent of lavender lingering in the air. She spent her days exploring the city, marveling at its gaslit streets and horse-drawn carriages. But it was her evenings with Samuel that she cherished the most. Their love blossomed amidst the gaslight and cobblestones.
They danced in candlelit ballrooms, their bodies moving as one to the strains of waltzes and polkas.
Yet a shadow of sadness lurked beneath Eleanor's happiness. She knew her time in the past was limited. The days flew by, each one more precious than the last. Eleanor and Samuel's love deepened, their bond unbreakable. They were two souls intertwined, destined to find each other across the chasm of time. But the locket, once a symbol of their connection, now felt like a ticking time bomb.
The fear of being ripped away from Samuel gnawed at my heart. I had never confessed the truth of my origins to him, afraid of shattering the fragile world we had built together.
One night as they lay entwined in each other's arms, Eleanor confessed everything.
I told Samuel about the future, about skyscrapers and airplanes, about a world vastly different from our own.
Tears streamed down her face as she spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. To her surprise, Samuel didn't dismiss her story as madness. He listened intently, his gaze never leaving her face.
We'll face the future together, whatever it may hold.
But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As the clock struck midnight, the locket in Eleanor's pocket began to burn. She cried out, clutching at Samuel's shirt. The last thing she saw before being ripped away from his arms was the look of utter heartbreak on Samuel's face. Eleanor woke up with a gasp, her heart pounding in her chest. She was back in her own time, in her own apartment. The familiar sights and sounds of the 21st century washed over her. But all she could see was Samuel's face, etched with pain and confusion. The locket lay on the floor beside her, cold and lifeless.
It was over. I was back, but a part of me remained lost in time, forever bound to Samuel.
Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Eleanor tried to move on, to rebuild her life.
One rainy afternoon, while cleaning out my grandmother's attic, I stumbled upon a dusty old trunk. Inside, nestled amongst yellowed lace and faded photographs, lay a leather-bound diary. The diary belonged to my great-great-grandmother, a woman named Elizabeth, and it told a story that would change my life forever.
Elizabeth's diary was more than just a collection of faded entries. It was a window into the past, a love story that echoed through generations.
As I delved deeper into the brittle pages, I realized that Elizabeth's story was intertwined with my own. Elizabeth had also fallen in love with a man from another time, a man named Samuel.
Their love story, like Eleanor's, was a tapestry woven with stolen moments, passionate encounters, and the bittersweet pain of separation. Elizabeth wrote of a locket, a family heirloom passed down through generations that possessed the power to transport its wearer through time.
She described Samuel in vivid detail, his kind eyes, his warm smile, his passion for words. It was as if I was reading about the man I had fallen in love with, the man who haunted my dreams.
The realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. Samuel wasn't just a figment of her imagination, a dream lost to time. He was real. And their love story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Eleanor raced through the bustling city streets, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She clutched Elizabeth's diary to her chest, its worn leather a source of comfort. The antique shop. She had to get back to the antique shop. It was the place where it all began, the nexus point of their extraordinary journey.
As I navigated the crowded sidewalks, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen forces were guiding me towards my destiny.
She burst through the doors of the antique shop, her breath catching in her throat. The air was thick with the scent of dust and old wood, a familiar aroma that transported her back to that fateful day. The shopkeeper, a frail old man with eyes that twinkled with ancient wisdom, looked up from his ledger. He greeted her with a knowing smile, as if he had been expecting her.
You've returned. I trust you found what you were looking for?
The shopkeeper led her to a back room, a dimly lit space cluttered with forgotten treasures. He stopped before an old grandfather clock, its pendulum swinging rhythmically.
Time is but a river, ever flowing, ever changing. But true love, true love has the power to bend its course, to create ripples that resonate through eternity.
He pointed to the clock face.
The hour approaches. Are you ready to claim your destiny?
Eleanor's hand trembled as she reached out to touch the locket. She thought of Samuel, of his love, his laughter, the pain in his eyes as she was ripped away from his arms. She couldn't let history repeat itself. This time, she would choose love. This time, she would rewrite their ending.
Taking a deep breath, I clasped the locket around my neck. The familiar feeling of dizziness washed over me. The air crackled with energy.
Go and reclaim what is yours. Time waits for no one, not even for love.
With a surge of determination, Eleanor closed her eyes and surrendered to the pull of the past. The world dissolved into a blinding white light. She was going back to Samuel, back to their love story. When the light subsided, Eleanor found herself standing on a familiar cobblestone street. Gaslights flickered, casting an ethereal glow on the wet pavement. The air was thick with the scent of rain and horse manure. She was back in the 1880s, back in Samuel's time.
Tears welled up in my eyes as I raced through the streets, my heart pounding with anticipation. I knew where to find him. He would be at our spot, our bench in Central Park, the place where we had shared our first kiss.
As she approached the bench, she saw him. Samuel. He was sitting there just as she had left him, his shoulders slumped, his gaze fixed on the ground. He looked older, wearier, as if the weight of their separation had aged him beyond his years. But as she called his name, his head shot up, his eyes widening in disbelief.
Eleanor?
I didn't hesitate. I ran into his arms, my tears mingling with the rain on his face.
He held her tightly, his embrace a mixture of relief, joy, and the lingering fear of losing her again.
You came back. You actually came back.